What does it signal when a country replaces its top army officer during an active conflict? And how might that decision affect military command, strategy, and global perceptions of stability? One detail highlights the stakes. Randy A. George, appointed in 2023, was asked to step down immediately by Pete Hegseth in the middle of a war involving Iran and coordinated operations with Israel. This video examines what such a leadership change reveals about civil-military dynamics, operational continuity, and the evolving structure of decision-making within the United States during wartime. If this development escalates into a broader pattern of leadership reshuffles, the fundamental change would be a shift in how military strategy is aligned with political priorities. If the transition stabilizes quickly, the impact may remain limited to internal command adjustments. If it fails to produce cohesion, however, it could introduce uncertainty into operational planning at a critical moment. Each possibility affects not only battlefield coordination, but also alliance confidence and deterrence signaling. To understand the significance, it is necessary to examine the institutional context. The U.S. Army Chief of Staff is a central figure responsible for organizing, training, and equipping forces, as well as advising civilian leadership. General Randy George, aged 61, at the time of his removal, had decades of service, including deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. Since his appointment under Joe Biden in 2023, he had focused on streamlining force structure and integrating emerging technologies such as low-cost interceptor drones and artificial intelligence-enabled targeting systems. These efforts reflected broader modernization priorities within the U.S. military. The decision to remove him came under the administration of Donald Trump, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth overseeing the change. According to reporting by U.S. media, the rationale centered on aligning Army leadership more closely with the administration's strategic vision. This reflects a recurring dynamic in U.S. civil-military relations, where elected leadership retains authority to appoint and remove senior officers, particularly when strategic priorities shift. However, the timing introduces additional complexity. The United States and Israel are engaged in an active conflict involving Iran, creating a high-pressure operational environment. During such periods, continuity in military leadership is typically prioritized to maintain clarity in command structures and ensure consistent execution of strategy. Abrupt changes can therefore raise questions about internal coordination, even if formal chains of command remain intact. Further context emerges from reported disagreements between General George and Defense Secretary Hegseth. According to accounts citing military officials, tensions developed over the handling of promotions within the Army. Hegseth reportedly blocked 4 officers from a list of 29 candidates, including 2 women and 2 black officers, prompting internal concern among senior leadership. When George sought to address the issue directly, reports indicate that a meeting request was declined. While the Pentagon has not publicly detailed these interactions, the episode suggests underlying friction over personnel decisions and institutional norms. The removal of General George was not an isolated event. On the same day, 2 additional senior officials were reportedly dismissed: David M. Hodne, who led the Army's Transformation and Training Command, and William Green Jr. Both positions are tied to long-term institutional functions, including modernization and personnel support. Although these removals have not been formally confirmed by the Pentagon, their reported occurrence contributes to the perception of a broader leadership restructuring. These developments occur within a wider pattern. Since early 2025, several high-ranking officers have either retired or been replaced, including James J. Mingus, who stepped down earlier than expected in October. While each case has distinct circumstances, the cumulative effect is a period of transition within the upper levels of military leadership. At the same time, external factors add another layer of complexity. Reports from organizations such as the Military Religious Freedom Foundation indicate that some service members raised concerns about the framing of the conflict with Iran in religious terms. According to these accounts, certain communications suggested a broader ideological dimension to the war. While such claims remain contested and not officially endorsed, they contribute to the overall environment in which leadership decisions are being made. Two possible scenarios illustrate how this situation could evolve. In the first, the leadership changes result in tighter alignment between military operations and political objectives. A newly appointed army chief could implement revised priorities more rapidly, potentially increasing efficiency in decision-making and execution. In this case, the transition would be viewed as a recalibration rather than a disruption, with limited impact on operational effectiveness. In the second scenario, the removals generate uncertainty within the command structure. Senior officers may become more cautious in decision-making, particularly if personnel changes are perceived as politically driven. This could slow adaptation, complicate coordination with allies, and introduce ambiguity into strategic planning. In a conflict environment, even minor disruptions in command clarity can have measurable effects on operational tempo. The geopolitical implications extend beyond the immediate conflict. Allies closely monitor U.S. military leadership for signals of continuity and reliability. Changes at the top can influence how partners assess coordination, particularly in joint operations. At the same time, adversaries may interpret leadership transitions as indicators of internal dynamics, adjusting their own strategies accordingly. Historically, the United States has maintained a balance between civilian control of the military and institutional continuity within its armed forces. Leadership changes are not uncommon, but their timing and context shape how they are perceived. During periods of conflict, stability is often emphasized to ensure consistent execution of strategy. Deviations from this pattern attract attention because they may signal shifts in priorities or internal alignment. The central issue is not simply the removal of a single officer, but how leadership transitions intersect with operational demands and strategic objectives. Observers should focus on who replaces General George, how quickly new leadership establishes authority, and whether additional changes follow. These indicators will help determine whether the current developments represent a short-term adjustment or part of a broader restructuring within the U.S. military. As this situation unfolds, the key question remains how leadership, policy, and military operations will align under evolving conditions. The outcome will shape not only the conduct of the current conflict, but also broader perceptions of stability, continuity, and decision-making within one of the world's most influential military institutions.